Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting by, you know how I feel. Birds flying high, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on a tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, a new day, a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean, don't you know? Butterflies all having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when the day is done, that's what I mean. And this whole world is a new world and a bold world for me. Sun, when you shine, you know how I feel. Scent of the pine, you know how I feel. Freedom is mine, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, a new day, a new life. It's a new dawn, a new day, a new life. It's a new dawn, a new day, a new life for me. And I'm feeling good.
That is right. Good afternoon. I'm Reverend Jude Geiger, Minister for Community Engagement here at Community Church. And I welcome you on behalf of the ministry team, our staff, and our lay leaders. It is good to be together, both in person and online. Community Church is a multiracial, multicultural, multi-generational congregation with a vision and commitment to build a world grounded in equity and inclusion. With me today is Brother Zachary Stevens-Walter, the Chaplain for Pastoral Care, Dr. Janice Marie Johnson, our commission lay leader, Jerry Brown, our music director, Darnell White, our musician in residence, and our talented choir. Community Church is in transition. We have sold our church building, are in the process of finding another in this neighborhood. We are guests here, for which we are grateful, even if this beautiful space isn't perfectly reflective of all our theology. Children are always welcome during worship. Feel free to move around the space or to join children's programming happening in the loft through that door over there. The sound of babies crying or children fidgeting is a beautiful part of being in community. Masks are optional. We ask that everyone be respectful of each other's decisions and need for personal space. And if you do have a cold, please consider masking and moving to another space in the room. You're less likely to infect others. Today's service is entitled, "My Peace I Bring You," Finding Our Way Home. And for our opening hymn, you will not need your hymnals. Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing All Around Everywhere, which will be led by Brother Zachary.
Please repeat after me. All around.
All around.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Holiness.
Holiness.
All around.
All around.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Holiness.
Holiness.
This is a repeat after me song. You'll repeat after me the whole way. So at the end, you'll have to start before I finish. You hear it? Holy, holiness. Holy, holiness. All around, everywhere. Holy, holiness. Holy, holiness. From the highest high to the deepest deep. Holy, holiness. From the depths of me to the depths of you. Holy, holiness. Holy, holiness. All around, everywhere. Holy, holiness. Holy, holiness. Holy, holiness. All around, everywhere. Holy, holiness. Holy, holiness. You may be seated.
The words of our call to worship come from Lao Tzu, author of Tao Te Ching. If there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. If there is to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. If there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. If there is to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home. If there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart. We will now light our chalice, first sung, then spoken. Please join me, and may the lighting of our chalice today bring peace in our hearts. We light this candle, the flame of our heritage. May it ignite hope in our lives, in our community, and in the world. Please join me in reciting our unison affirmation. Unto the Church Universal, which is the depository of all ancient wisdom and the school of all modern thought, which recognizes in all prophets a harmony, in all scriptures a unity, and through all dispensations a continuity, which abjures all that separates and divides, and always magnifies humanity and peace, which seeks truth in freedom, justice in love, and individual discipline in social duty, and which shall make of all persons one beloved community. Unto this church and unto all its members, known and unknown throughout the world, we pledge the allegiance of our hands and hearts. We are gathered on the unceded land of the Lenape peoples. We acknowledge the Lenape community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement demonstrates a commitment to dismantling the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. This would be the time to make a joyful noise and greet your neighbors. Hello, hello, hello.
I don't know if anyone filled any out, but they'd be up front, right by the tags. Thank you so much. I invite everyone back to their seats. In a moment, we will begin with a centering chime. Followed by that will be a time of silence, knowing that with all the wiggles and sneezes and coughs of the world, it's not about the perfection of silence, but the intention. Join with me now. Please join with me now in a spirit of prayer and meditation. Source of life, Mother of hope, God of many names. We pause this afternoon in this annual day of remembrance for all the parents in our lives who have helped us grow to be the people we have strived to be. We know that within this room and within each of our hearts, there's a complicated mixture of joy, sadness, heartache, and love when we think of the word mother. Where we have known moments of laughter and lightness, we give thanks. Where we have felt grief and pain, we offer up our silence. Knowing that words can rarely help us along those difficult roads. Only friendship and care and honesty can. May we remember the times in our childhood, the small moments that shone beyond themselves. May they offer peace where there is conflict. Remind us that every moment holds within it the opportunity for motherhood, for mentoring, for parenting, for caring for the children around us, and the child that is within every one of us, no matter how old we may be. As a religious community, we stand in solidarity with love, that sacred embodiment of value, worth, and compassion that any two people would be blessed to ever feel for one another. May our communities come to mature, to grow into a deeper sense of spirit, one filled for generosity for those that are different than themselves, so that all within our nation may come to feel respected and live lives of peace as they feel so called. Amen, and blessed be. Please remain seated for our musical meditation, number 352, in the great hymnal, Find a Stillness.
Oh
Readings by bell hooks. I want there to be a place in the world where people can engage in one another's differences in a way that is redemptive, full of hope and possibility. It's not, in order to love you, I must make you something else. That's what domination is all about. That in order to be close to you, I must possess you, remake and recast you. One of the best guides to how to be self-loving is to give ourselves the love we are often dreaming about receiving from others. There was a time when I felt lousy about my over 40 body, saw myself as too fat, to this or to that. Yet I fantasized about finding a lover who would give me the gift of being loved as I am. It is silly, isn't it, that I would dream of someone else offering to me the acceptance and affirmation I was withholding from myself. This was a moment when the maxim, "You can never love anybody if you are unable to love yourself," made clear sense. And I add, do not expect to receive the love from someone else you do not give yourself.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, choir. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Translated, these words mean, we come to greet you in peace. Good afternoon. Let's all take a nice deep breath. Before I get too far, I want to offer a gentle content advisory. Today, I will gently and briefly speak about violence. Here at the Community Church, the theme for our worship this month is peace, and this peace is not something I could speak about honestly if I didn't share why peace was important. I invite you to notice what feelings come up for you and to take care of yourself gently as you need. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. We come to greet you in peace. Church, I want to ask you a question before we start. Did you Did you come this morning to greet us in peace? Is that what you came here for? Let's think about it. That's great if you did. Also, that's not necessary if you didn't. Some of us may have come with another goal in mind. Maybe you came to church to find peace instead. Maybe you just came to see friends. That's okay. Maybe you came by accident. That's great too. Maybe you came because you were curious. Maybe it's your first time here. Maybe some of you came because that's just what you do on Sunday. That's okay. I understand. Maybe some of you came because you're paid to be here. That's all right. I understand. Maybe I said the quiet part out loud. But again, Havenu Shalom Aleichem, we come to greet you in peace. Now, personally, I think asking someone to come to church already at peace is kind of like asking someone to come to dinner having already eaten. It's kind of like saying, it's kind of like coming to dinner when you're not even hungry. No, we have dinner when we're hungry, and we come to church not because we are already at peace, but because we want it, and we want to share it. Even so, peace that we are looking for might be different between each one of us. If you have experience in a context of armed conflict, peace might simply mean not at war. Those among us who have known the instability and fear of armed conflict might reflexively think of peace as the end of state-sanctioned violence and bloodshed. Peace has long been used as an antonym for war, suggesting that if war is absent, peace is what's left. Peace to another one of us might look like contentment or stability. In the midst of constant physical pain or the physical discomfort of chronic illness, peace might simply look like respite from constant hurt. Or in the midst of poverty, the constant anxiety of survival and the effort of striving for the right to exist might mean peace is just a moment to breathe. Peace might mean the opportunity simply to be. And yet to another, peace might look like harmony or concord in relationships for those of us who carry with us the baggage of dysfunctional relationships in our youth or in our upbringing or a hostile family context. Peace might just mean respect or affirmation. Peace might just mean feeling safe. Well, James Baldwin writes, one writes out of one thing only, one's own experience. In that way, I can't talk to you about peace in your context, just mine. And today, I want to tell you the word peace feels hard for me to understand. I don't feel peaceful today. Too often, I think we describe peace like it were something that others owe to us. Peace would be mine if only those others over there would stop their warmongering. If only they would stop causing harm. Peace could be mine if only that noisemaker back there would stop all that yammering. Peace could be mine if only this modern world would stop its constant churn and just come to rest. You can say amen if you agree with me. You can say yes if you agree with me. Friends, I have to say that peace for me can't be something I need others to give me, because a peace like that is too risky. It can be taken away at a moment's notice. Peace like that is too fragile. someone can share a single nasty word and my peace would be gone. To me, peace looks more like laughter. Peace looks less like silence and more like cries of joy. When I say peace, it looks less like the absence of harm and more like singing together. Last month, I had the privilege of attending a gathering of Unitarian Universalist religious professionals of color. The gathering was held in Atlanta, Georgia, and was called Finding Our Way Home. This was my first time to Atlanta. I took an airplane from LaGuardia Airport, and that morning I woke up early, I kissed my family goodbye, and I tried to imagine the warmth and welcome that I hoped to find in Atlanta. I tried to keep up my daily prayer practice in the airport, but that day and that morning, I found it very difficult. Just like this morning when I said that peace is hard for me to understand. That day, peace was hard for me to understand. I missed my family. Kissing them goodbye was difficult. Knowing that I was coming home didn't make it easier. Do you know what I'm talking about? I was sad, actually. I could rationalize it, but the sadness caught me off guard. On the walk to the train that morning, while I was feeling sad, and then from the train I took to the bus, and the bus I took to the airport, along each leg of my trip, I don't know if it was because of the sadness I felt, I noticed much more suffering in our city than I had before. I felt the burden of leaving New York City when New York City had so many needs. I saw so many of my fellow New Yorkers before I even stepped foot onto the airlines, sleeping and living on the sidewalks, on the trains, and on the bus. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And do you know what they have on every monitor when you arrive at the airport? Who knows? CNN, that's right. Burdened as I was by my own sadness leaving my family behind and by the suffering I witnessed on my trip to the airport, I was immediately hit by the suffering taking place all across our country. Children shot at a birthday party. A young man shot and killed for ringing the wrong doorbell. A growing culture of militarism and renewed violence in Sudan, in the Levant, in the Ukraine. I sat there listening to tragedy after tragedy. Waiting for my flight, I cried. I knew I would come back to my family, but friends, I do not say this lightly, I sat there destroyed. I remember in that moment, as a person of faith, I chose to pray, and I prayed for peace. I don't know if it was inner peace or outer peace that I prayed for, maybe both. But what I can say is that my prayer did not change very much. Not out in the world and not on the inside. I did not discover magically through my prayer that I had found inner peace just because I prayed for it. Do you know what I'm talking about? Maybe you're not the praying sort of person. Maybe you have just tried to calm yourself down and were unsuccessful. Have you ever tried to calm yourself down and couldn't? It was this wild energy of being unsettled that I brought with me to Atlanta. I was upset. I was galvanized, witnessing poverty and suffering, witnessing the callous and traumatizing mass media of the day. I was worn down thin, not the least of which by a full day of the microaggressions of traveling. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. I arrived at the hotel, I tried to gather my thoughts before joining the community downstairs. Alone in my hotel room, I started to get now afraid. I really was looking forward to making a good impression among my colleagues, but I was afraid that my exhaustion, my emotional exhaustion, my physical exhaustion took my spark away. I was afraid that the joyful lightness I wanted to share would not be mine to show. Now, I didn't know it, but the best thing that could have happened to me was that discomfort I felt before joining the gathering, because for the next 4 days, I met others from all around the country, leaders, staff members from this denomination, and they felt a lot of the same things I felt. We breathed together. I talked about this discomfort that I felt. I talked about what it was like for me to come to Atlanta, and I told others what I saw. And they told me they shared similar experiences. They told me they had similar feelings. And then we breathed together again. Over and over again, we shared centering deep breaths. We learned specifically how to breathe with purpose, how to slow our exhale so that our lungs would massage our nervous system. This was a necessary practice because we also listened to stories of violence against Asian Americans in Atlanta, stories of violence against trans folks across the country. We learned about the necessary initiatives that support people of color in this denomination, and we learned about some of the struggles that impact other churches. We learned the term GLOMA, used instead of the term BIPOC, which is itself an acronym for Black and Indigenous people of color. The term GLOMA is shorthand for the global majority, a term meant to empower and unite all who struggle for racial justice around the globe. More than all of this that we learned and practiced, friends, we breathed, and yes, we sang. We sang a lot. We sang melodies and harmonies and sang stuff we made up on the spot. We sang over and over again. Yeah, it's funny, it's good. We sang over and over again. And in the midst of this singing, we discussed Unitarian Universalism, this denomination, how it exists today, what it used to be, and what it could be. We talked specifically about the legacy of the community church. We talked about what it used to be, and we talked about what it could be. I learned that this community church has a particular identity in the Unitarian Universalist denomination. I learned that the community church used to be a home for Unitarian Universalists of color, a sanctuary of safety that people around the country knew existed, a home for difficult discourse on the problems in our world and our country, a home in particular for conversations about the meaning of peace, peacefulness in our world as an active principle. And I'm not just talking about the legacy of our former minister, luminary John Haynes Holmes, who himself was a powerful activist on pacifism. I'm also talking about the political discourse and the religious imagination of our denomination that has been honed particularly in this community. Do you know what I'm talking about? If you've been here for a while, you might know what I'm talking about. The meaning of peace in political discourse in particular, was forged in the fires of this New York City space, this New York City congregation. It was forged over decades, and the benefit continues to be felt around the world. Today, the relationship between peace and justice is not always as obvious. The discourse I'm talking about in particular is called transitional justice theory, and I'm going to quote extensively from an article by Yuvraj Joshi, who writes about transitional justice theory. Joshi writes, "Transitional justice concerns how societies move from oppression and violence toward a more just and peaceful order. One of the central discussions of transitional justice is a peace versus justice dilemma." Have you heard of this before? Peace versus justice, which seeks to reconcile legitimate claims for justice with, I would say, also legitimate claims for stability and social peace. Transitional justice scholarship grapples with the question of what is peace and what is justice, and are they competing goals at times? Are they complementary, or does one take priority over the other? In our context, Joshi says, transitional justice scholars examine these questions with respect generally to developing countries, but this peace versus justice dilemma animates America's transition from slavery, segregation, and white supremacy. The United States has attempted this transition from racial apartheid to inclusive democracy and has sought to balance pursuing racial equality with ensuring social stability. When public officials or American people have disagreed about how that balance should be struck, some have called upon the courts to settle versions of the peace versus justice dilemma. And that is where my quote ends. In this framework, peace looks a lot more like just the lack of disruption. If Joshi's words seem scary or tame, it might be because we have seen what this peace looks like in practice. In the midst of state-sanctioned violence and oppression, this peace becomes a weapon of waiting. Peace is simply the avoidance of discomfort. Social stability is a mask for more white fragility. Friends, we cannot force peace upon ourselves or upon anyone else. Trying to pretend that we have peace already itself causes violence and disruption. Peace is too often just justice deferred. So let me ask you, church, does that sound like real peace to you? I don't think so. This is the sort of peace that is this the sort of peace that we are singing about? I don't think so. It's the sort of peace that I am looking for in my heart, however, to respond. The sort of peace that I'm looking for is active. So, how do you find that sort of peace in a world that doesn't seem to have it? How do you be peaceful or experience that inner settled presence, that stable peace we seek in a religious context when you look around and you don't see it anywhere? How do we do it? Because you do not need me to tell you, but we only have to look around at our world, at the crisis of global migration and how many people suffer because they're forced to leave their home, to see that our world is not at peace. We only have to look at how many people get shot in this country for no reason or for very bad reasons to see that our nation is not at peace. You can say yes if you agree. You can say amen if you agree. We only have to look at how many of our siblings right now that live and die on our sidewalks, that live and die on our subway trains, to see that our city is not at peace. and has not been at peace for a long time. Now, when the world is at peace, and our nations are not at peace, when our city is not at peace, when our neighbors are far from peace, when our families aren't peaceful, when our hearts are not peaceful, where can we find peace, friends? When our hearts are not at peace, and when everything we see is not peaceful. It is not spiritual failure to come to church without peace. It is insight to recognize that we are not peaceful. Speaking of families, I have 3 children, and I want to say families are generally not peaceful in my experience, even the happy, kind ones. That said, many of our families are also our purest sources of conflict or trauma, the original rejection that we experience and replay throughout our lives. No, friends, our families are not often peaceful. Today is a day that we celebrate it across our culture as Mother's Day, and for many of us, it is an opportunity to celebrate mothering as we have known it, as we have received it, as we see it practiced. And yet, we know here, not everyone receives the love that they deserve. And for many mothers who are not here with us or can't be here with us, this is a day not of celebration, but of pensive mourning. For some among us, home may never have been a real home. And finding our way home sounds less exciting and more like an arduous journey full of uncertainty. We are looking for that feeling of acceptance and interconnected love that family should mean. On the one hand, family cannot be a universal value. However, chosen families can emerge from this dysfunction. Here, in this church, I want to say to all of you, a chosen family of sorts is beginning to emerge for me. Some of you may have already known that here, the sense of chosen family. Some of you may have come here hoping to recreate something you knew elsewhere. But here, in this church, in this room, and for those of you connecting online, whether you found it by effort or by accident, whether you've come here looking for peace or whether you've come here filled with peace to share, I do believe that the intent of these words can be created, it can be supported, and can be shared right here among us, Community Church. What do you think? Yeah, you think so? Specifically, I think that peace can be found in our legacy as we seek to understand the meaning of this community, this church, in our wider world. Peace can be found here among us in the practices of radical welcome that we are putting in place. Peace can be found here in the practices of deep listening that are becoming common and familiar to our communities. Peace can be found here in our worship, where we sing, and then we sing again, and then we sing some more. Because we're building a culture of peace. That's why we are here. Peace can be found in more than just these practices, however. Peace can be found in how we are choosing to gather with one another, lifting respect and love as virtues. Continuing this legacy of true dialogue, yes, in the context of respect, in the context of collaborative justice seeking that has become part of our culture here. When I was in Atlanta, many of the Unitarian Universalists I spoke with had spent many more years on this earth than I have. And they told me stories about this community, this church, as a sanctuary where democratic ideals meant radical welcome regardless of ideology or place of origin. Behind those stories, I listened and I heard a question that went unasked. I heard a curiosity in the glistening of the eyes of these elders, wondering if the community church still meant what it used to mean. Could the community church be those things for this denomination again? I have to say that longing for a worldly home, a physical place to point to and say, there I know I belong, that longing was something I desperately wanted to soothe. Could the community church become a home for all again? I mean, what do you think? You know how I feel about it. At least you should after I'm done with this message, because it's not just black folks in this denomination who are looking for a space that they can call home. That's right. We're looking for a way back to peace again, and it is a long road, but this church has a well that goes very deep. The deep well of this church can create a home for all people again. The gathering in Atlanta was entitled Finding Our Way Home, and the subtext of my interactions in Atlanta was an affirmation that when home is hard to find out in the world, home can be built within a chosen family. Home can be built among friends or even among strangers. For those willing to listen, for those willing to sing, the feeling of home can be made anywhere, anytime. But church, I think we can still do better than that, because we are working together for reasons too many to count. This church can be a home for us who are here and for so many others in our city who are wondering the same thing. Where do we find peace? Where do we find home? Friends, I want to say I see all of you building it, building that home and building that hope. I see it when we talk about radical welcome and when we invite trainings on how to be radically welcoming. I see it when we talk about putting love at the center of everything. I see it when we talk about disrupting church, because we disrupt church out of love. We are building this home when we laugh together for any reason. We're building this home together when we dance, whether there's music or not. We build this home when we sing together. You don't have to know the words. You don't have to sing on pitch. You don't have to sing in time. And you don't even have to sing very loud. But when we sing together, we build home. Friends, when I play my banjo, you may have noticed that I don't use some of the more familiar words like spirituals or the blues. And that's because the traditions that I am hoping to help us cultivate gave birth to those traditions. The ways of singing and playing together that we are practicing, that we are learning, may seem simple on the outside. It may seem to lack the breadth of color and imagery that some other traditions, some other songs may have. They may seem at first to be simple or basic. But in these ways of singing, of chanting together, we are learning and embodying ancient technology that heals our bodies in the moment and teaches embodied compassion and empathy. This lays a foundation for us to practice creativity and collaboration in new ways. This is ancient technology that we employ that cultivates peace. Peace in our hearts. Peace between us as neighbors. Singing cultivates peace in communities. Singing cultivates peace in the midst of our cities and our country to respond to anything that can come our way. Here at the community church, we are answering the call to be what the world needs us to be that home. By practicing peacemaking, by practicing this faith, by putting love at the center of everything, we can become the institution that our world needs more than anything. And that, in my opinion, is a house of prayer for all people. That is truly, effectively, unequivocally for all people. That is what we have the opportunity to do. That is what we are here to become. I think we can become a home again, not just for our disenfranchised in the city, but a home for our denomination, a home across the country and beyond. To anyone looking around wondering, where can peace be found? If there is no peace in your heart, that's okay, because here we're cultivating it in all our hearts. If there is no peace in our city, it might be sad, but that's okay, because we are going to cultivate it on behalf of our city here together. Come here, sing with us. Regardless of whether you know peace or even want peace. Here we laugh, we dance, we sing, and we build a culture of peace and reconciliation. We are helping our whole world find its way home. In a few moments, we'll sing again, and the words sound like this. Shalom Haverim. Try that. Shalom Haverim. Lehit Raot. Lehit Raot. Don't reach for your hymnals too fast, but it is true that this next hymn can be found in the gray hymnal at number 400. And I encourage you to sing with your ears and your hearts, not your eyes. Shalom Haverim Lehit Raot.
Life at Community Church is busy. Whether we're online or in person, it is our hope that wherever you are, and in whatever way you are comfortable engaging in the mission and the ministry of this church, we have provided opportunities for you. If you're streaming this service live and would like to join others for fellowship, click the link on our webpage at 3 p.m. to enter our Zoom room. It's right above, the link is right above the picture. For everyone's safety, cameras need to be on. Don't miss the next installment of Say Hello To, which will feature David Strahan and will take place on Wednesday, May 17th, this week, at 7 p.m. in our main Zoom room. And all are invited. The anti-racism team is hosting a 3-part series entitled The Realities of Racism. And the first conversation will be this Saturday, May 20th, from 2 to 3:30 p.m. The theme of this hybrid event will be Race, What Is It Actually? And will feature a screening of the short documentary by the same name. All are welcome and encouraged to join, and to RSVP, please email info@ccny.org. Are you new to community and curious about how to get more involved or even join this church? A week from today, next Sunday, May 21st, newcomers are invited to join our spiritual journeys session. It's part of our path to membership. RSVs are required also, and I'll be taking part in it, as well as our membership chair, Jody Light. Please reach out to me to let me know you're interested in coming, and I can let you know what Zoom room it's in. And my email, if you want to email me later or you're watching now, it's jgeiger@ccny.org. It's also on the website. And last but not least, people from the Lenape community will be meeting with us on Tuesday, May 23rd, to talk about their history and to think together about healing and relationship building. Please join us. It would be good for many of our members to join this conversation. And it's online. We are a 7-day church and have programs running every day of the week. You can find out more information in the program and on our website. And our ushers now are going to pass a plate for our collection. If you're new here, please let the plate go by you with no pressure to give. We are glad for your presence. All gifts are accepted in gratitude.
Knowing how quickly the flame of truth may be extinguished, how easily the chalice of fellowship broken, let us be vigilant in faith, keep peace in our hearts, and make care for one another the watchword of our lives together. So our light goes out everywhere into the world. Friends, go now in peace, in the fullness of love and acceptance and affirmation, knowing together we build a house of prayer for the world. Amen. Ashe.